Hello, everyone. My name is Ned Dennison. I'm the chairperson of the International Marathon Swimming Hall of Fame. We have a guest with us today, Siga Rose. Please say hello, Siga.
Hello, everyone.
What I'd like to do is I would like to start by saying one of the reasons that we're interviewing Siga is that Penny Lee Dean has been awarded the Poseidon Award from the International Swimming Hall of Fame, very prestigious award. And when you talk to Penny, she says, Siga was my coach back in the day. And then I get the same story from John York. And I know she also trained and coached honoree Cindy Cleveland. So what I'd like to do, Siga, is have you first of all tell us a little bit about yourself. Were you a swimmer, and talk about your entire coaching career. And then we'll come back to the open water.
Okay, well, I was born in Iceland, and Iceland is obviously surrounded by water, and I got my passion of the ocean there. And then I moved at 6 years old to Hermosa Beach and grew up on the beach, always loved the ocean. And I started a swim team called Surfside, and we would rent a pool. And when there was a high school swim meet, I didn't know what to do. So I took all my swimmers from 8 to 18 down to the beach and introduced them to the ocean. And that included John when he was 12, John York, and Cindy Cleveland when she was 14, 15. And it just really started there. We would swim a half a mile, 2 miles. Then one day, John and Cindy were standing with me, and they said, "We want to swim to Catalina." And I said, "No, you don't." And that's really how it started. That they pushed me to help them get across to Catalina, and that's kind of an abbreviation of my passion for open water. I was a pool swimmer, just an average pool swimmer, but my coach would enter us in some mile swims and 2 mile swims, and I seemed to do quite well in that. I had a lot of confidence, and so I just took it from there, gathering information as I go. So.
And how old were you when you started coaching John Penny?
Oh, when I started coaching, I was really 17, and there were some swimmers that were my age. Anyway, but by the time it got to Surfside, you asked me how. John was 12, and I was, that's a good question. 20. John's, help me add it up. John's.
You were about 20, 21.
Yeah, I was quite young.
You were the older woman on the beach.
That's true. That is absolutely true.
When I speak to Steve Munatonis, he says that when he was being coached by Penny, they were doing these arduous sets in the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
He blames you because that's the way you trained Penny. How did you formulate these workouts for them? Did you have a mentor? Did you have a book? Were you observing somebody, or you just said, "I'll figure it out"?
I think I have to say I'll figure it out. I never put a swimmer in the water that I didn't train enough to complete the swim. If it was a 12-mile swim, we always overtrained. Everything was overtrained. And I think that's one of the reasons we had so much success. But yeah, I think I answered your question. Did I? I believe I did.
So, I don't whether to believe Steve or whether his memory is a bit faulty, but he talked about these, 10 times 1,000-meter sets in the ocean.
Yes. Yeah, I was a little crazy in a good way. What I found in the ocean, that they were just going through the motions a bit, because we would swim in Seal Beach which was fantastic, because from the pier to the jetty was a half a mile. So I could walk up and down the beach. They were all different speeds, but I can keep an eye on them and time them, and sometimes even get their stroke count. And they were somewhat close to shore, etc. But I forgot where I was going with that. But then I realized they were just not going through the motions, but I felt like they were losing some of their speed. So then we decided to hit the ocean at 8 in the morning, swim quite a few hours, depending on the miles we had to go. And then we'd get in the car, we'd drive to Lakewood, which is about a half-hour drive, and we would swim lots of fast, you know, the three of them were never sprinters, but we would swim a lot of speed with a team called Lakewood Aquatic Club Jim Montrella. And I really, really feel that that benefited those three swimmers. There were a few others with us. I think that's very important part of open water swimming, that you need to do some speed training. And I found it very successful.
And tell us about the first time you ended up on a boat, either at Catalina or headed to Catalina. The first time you had one of the swimmers. I don't remember, you know, how many lessons you learned on that first swim.
Well, I did the very first swim I went on. I asked, I can't remember the name of the gentleman. He was probably in his 40s, and he's a very fast swimmer. He wasn't my swimmer, it was another coach. And we started at night and it wasn't successful. He was in the water just a couple of hours and he stopped, okay? He came back the next year and was very successful. So I learned right away how important it was to train at night also. So that was a big one. Yeah. And then the very first swims, I was learning, I knew never to sleep. And I asked people not to yawn when they were standing with me. If they had to yawn, you know, turn around, don't eat in front of the swim. This is all learning, but it was just common sense too. Lots of common sense. Go over there and eat. Just things, very practical things, and have a good relationship with your skipper. I give all the credit to Mickey Pittman. He was, I don't know if they mentioned his name, he's passed on, but he was also learning. He was new to this, and he really was respectful of me, gave me good advice, and he really made it happen too. Without a good skipper, and of course he was paid very well, but you probably know some of the prices, but he bought into it. He bought into the swimmers and bought into me, and it was fabulous. So
we inducted him and John, his son, the same time a couple of years ago. Unfortunately, Mickey had already passed away. Right. When I do a little bit of, I was actually coach, but I have 80 or 90 swimmers come to Ireland every year for some training, and we used to have something called the torture swim, and we would literally have them swim around the boat while we had lunch, and we would yell to each other, "This pastrami sandwich has got to be the best sandwich I've ever had." Horrible.
That's cruel, painful.
Because we just said to them, you know, things are going to happen, and obviously we do exactly the same thing. Somebody's watching the swimmer. You want to go to the toilet, get away. You want to eat, go away, and don't be laughing and joking while somebody's in pain.
And always amazed how well they could see everything on the boat. They can see everything. They go, "Why did everybody disappear?" I go, "Well, they went to sleep so they could paddle for you." "Oh, okay." You know, I mean, they could see everything, and it was really. And when we had tough swims too, I'm trying to stay on the question, I'm sorry. You know, John and Penny and Cindy, they helped me. You know, when we were having some tough situations, and they would be throwing up and getting sick, and what are we going to do? And they really would keep their spirits up, and I really felt for me. I really felt that they were helping me get through this, you know, and I was very, very fortunate to have those three swimmers. I was blessed with those three swimmers.
Did you realize at the time that they were that good?
They had the mindset.
You're working in a vacuum and you couldn't see the rest of the sport. And it were just the three swimmers you were working with, and they were doing what they were doing? Or did you realize it was kind of world-class stuff happening?
I'm going to try and answer that. When I said go 10 miles, they said, okay. They never questioned me. They should have, but they never questioned me. It was one of those situations like, oh, they're not asking me. They just went off into the ocean. I mean, they never. I was honored to coach them, and they just did everything I asked, and then some, and then some.
Yeah. You may or may not be aware, but John's double and one leg of Penny's double remain speed records decades later. They are still speed records. Some of the oldest records in the sport, those two hold in Catalina.
Yeah, no, I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of them. But that wasn't the goal. It was to finish. Don't laugh. It was to finish. We never let ourselves get ahead. You know, as the island got closer, as PV got closer, what did we learn? It's not close until you get on shore. You know?
I tell people that the cliff in Pacific Palisades, wherever it is, it looks the same 10 miles as it does from 1 mile. So don't be looking up thinking you're going to get positive encouragement, because it doesn't get any bigger.
No.
Why? You were coaching in the pool, you were getting paid, and you're all of a sudden now getting up at 8 o'clock in the morning for free, volunteering to coach these three teenagers. Why?
Well, I've already said that they motivated me. John worked so hard in the pool, and Cindy worked pretty hard in the pool, and you know, Penny just drives herself. So they motivated me to. I wanted this. I was so excited. You know, I was very, very excited to have this adventure with them, and so they motivated me, and obviously I motivated them. So we made a great team. Yeah.
And were you at the airport to greet Penny when she crushed the English Channel record, or how did that happen?
Well, it was so exciting. I went on John's, you know, English Channel swim, but I couldn't go on Penny's because I was extremely pregnant with my daughter. And so I just could not go, which was a huge disappointment to Penny and a huge disappointment to me. But no, I didn't see her off. No, but I was absolutely, I shouldn't say, I never thought her time would be as fast as it was. I just honor her. It was really an amazing, amazing accomplishment. Incredible, really.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And one of the things that might surprise you is we've kind of tracked our honorees that contributed to the success of getting marathon into the Olympics. And it really starts in 1984. So that swim race from Catalina was a kind of a trial swim for the sport to get in the Olympics. And you were the coach of what all of the Americans, and certainly John won that. Was that your first and only sort of marathon race of that kind of distance? And were you in John's boat?
Was this the mass swim?
There were about 10 of them from Catalina down to almost Orange County or something in 1984. John won it.
I don't think 84. How old was Krista? So,
It was when you met me.
I don't think I was. This is embarrassing.
This was after your time coaching them, maybe?
I really think so, because, you know, we did a lot of local crazy 10 milers from Huntington Pier to Seal Beach Pier, and we did a lot of those. But I don't believe I was on that swim. I feel quite sure of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And have you watched the 10K in the Olympics, these races at all on television or on video or something?
I have to say, only because of Coach Rose. I mean, when I got out, I got out.
Okay.
But he pulled me back in many ways.
And Coach Rose is a good-looking man you're married to.
Yes, he is.
Okay.
He's a wonderful man.
Let's set that straight now.
Yeah.
So when you watch those 10K swims now, if you could transport yourself back to the early days when you started coaching them, would you do anything different?
No, absolutely not.
So these swimmers today, they don't see much of the ocean.
I don't think I should make.
They're working out with the 800. They're working out with the 400 and the 800 swimmers. Tremendous swimmers. The speeds are absolutely tremendous, but they don't get in the ocean very often. And when they do, it's not the same ocean you're used to. It's maybe the rowing tank. That's a bad generalization, but it's more of that nature.
I feel, I had said to Coach Rose, but, oh, you can ask Coach Rose too. I'm so sorry. He's the expert. He's the Olympic coach how many times? I mean, but
yeah, but he doesn't have open water swimmers who hold records for 4 decades. Come on now. We'll put him on in a second, but don't underestimate your skills.
Okay. All right. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't want to make Coach Rose unhappy with me, but when open water swimming started in USA Swimming, I really felt it's 2 different sports, but I've grown in that ocean swimming, true ocean swimming is in the ocean. Get out there and, get go in the swells. And, it's a whole, in my opinion, a whole different ball game. But then again, through the years, because I've gone to a lot of the open water, I've crewed in Florida for the 10 mile. And so there's obviously so many similarities, and so I've grown to accept that. But boy, when it first started, I felt like it was 2 different sports.
So, and Bill, by all means, tuck in there next to your wife and say hello to everybody.
Hi, I'm a support level for Siga.
Okay, he's being shy now. So what I can tell you, Siga, is that in the sport, I've never met anybody that's not happy it's an Olympic sport.
Yeah.
Everybody's delighted it's in the Olympics. Then I can tell you that there's a massive, massive, massive number of swimmers that hate the fact it's 10K, hate the fact that it's in a rowing basin, hate the fact that they're drafting, and they're looking for point to point, 25 kilometers plus, scraping off some rocks with your own boat, with your name on the side of it, your national flag, and taking time to throw up and go to the toilet and pray and swim through the dark and all of those things that the word epic is probably applied to.
Yes.
When I have swimmers go to Catalina, I say to them, you probably leave the pier at 9 o'clock. You probably start around midnight. At 3:45 in the morning, the witches will arrive. And they'll be going, what are you doing out here? You haven't trained enough for this. You've had enough. Get out of this. Just get in the boat. Why are you still in the water? Just get in the boat. Like, you don't need this. And then,
right.
And then as they get closer to the end, and about half of them get that sort of adverse current kicks in, where the original trip computer on the pitman's boat at one point said never. and you're not going anywhere, and you have to find an inner reserve. Whereas in the Olympics, you keep moving your arms, you're making forward progress. If you stick on somebody's toes that's in the lead, you'll get second. Not quite that simple, but so don't feel bad. And it's a very active conversation in the sport. There is hope that in Paris and in Los Angeles, that the 10K could potentially be point to point.
Interesting. I hope to see that.
Wouldn't that, to be at the side of the Seine with 200,000 people watching them go by.
Yeah.
And when I speak to some of the original marathoners who talk about going down to Argentina and swimming the 88K swim, they said, look, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people on the bank. Everybody in the country was having a party except the swimmer. And when the Argentinians won the event, it was like being crowned president or something. They almost like carried through the streets.
You're a hero. Yeah.
Yeah, like and a feeling that they can't really describe even 20, 30, 40 years later. They just can't put it into words.
Right. Well, we'll hope that happens. I really hope that it'll be the pure open water.
Yeah. In the meantime, that John and Penny in particular, you coached them for free in the open water. They later turned out to be adults who, as volunteers, created that Catalina Channel Swimming Federation. I know there were other people involved, but John and Penny were clearly
Mhm.
big leading lights on that, and they put
Right.
in decades and decades and decades of volunteer service to the sport. And there are now thousands of people around the world who look back on their Catalina experience and they think, this is absolutely one of the highlights of their life. And
Right.
I put a lot down to John and Penny, and I think they had a young woman coaching them, excited, enthusiastic, and they probably are still thinking they're paying back a little bit what they owe.
That's wonderful. Yes. Very,
So-
very proud of them.
So thank you very much, Siga, for your time. I'm gonna end the interview. I'll say to people that this is on the IMSHOF YouTube channel, and you can subscribe to these. As I'll stop the recording now, but I'll have a word with you afterwards.